Hello, and welcome to the Softer Cast, a podcast where we answer your questions about podcasting without any tech bro bullshit. I'm Amelia Fruby, and I am the founder of Softer Sounds Podcast Studio, a podcast studio for women and non-binary entrepreneurs and creatives who want to create thoughtful, heartfelt shows that grow their businesses. I am obviously the host of this podcast, and I'm the one answering all your questions. And speaking of your questions, I would love to get more of them. So if you're tuned into this episode, please go ahead and open up those show notes or look down, scroll down if you're on YouTube, pop open that SpeakPipe link and record a quick question for us. I am gathering a bunch of questions, particularly for next year on the show. So please submit your podcast questions. Let me know when I can answer for you, and I'll do it on air sometime next year. Thanks. So let's dive into today's episode. If you're listening to this when it comes out live on time, you are catching us right after capitalist favorite holiday in the US, which would be like Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So this is coming out the day after that. And honestly, watching all of the consumption and all of the deals and all of, these pricing strategies, and even in the podcast industry, watching all of, this equipment go on sale, just this kind of paragon of consumerism and capitalism. Nothing wrong with that. I'd 100,000% support you if you grabbed a mic for cheap. I did that last year. But it just had me thinking about how much it costs to start a podcast. And I am a big believer that it can and should cost $0 to start a podcast. I am also someone who charges over $1,000 to launch a podcast with me. So I hold both of those at the same time. I don't think starting a podcast should require any expensive equipment. It just requires having something to say and a little bit of equipment, but nothing you need to spend money on. Of course, if you want to hire my company to support you and step by step hold your hand, guide you through that process, that costs money. But so many people don't need that, right? So many of you can just record on your phone and launch your show. So in today's episode, I want to walk us through how to launch a podcast for free. Or this question that I did get recently on a call, which was, what's the least expensive way to create a podcast? And this, again, it comes up all the time. It's coming up for me right now, coming out of Black Friday and the sort of consumerism season. It came up for me also because I was reading an interview with a podcaster the other day, and they were giving the top 3 tips for having a successful podcast. And for number 1, here's what they said. They said, I'm quoting, "Record on the best equipment you can afford. Podcast listeners these days are extremely sophisticated, and if your sound quality is bad, they won't stick around." End quote. So I read this, and on the face of it, I was like, fine. This is fine advice. It's probably true, whatever. But when I read things like this, it really gets under my skin because all I can think about is how many folks are going to read that and then count themselves out of podcasting and say, oh, yeah, that's probably true. Nobody wants to listen to me record on my phone, can't make a podcast. Because what if the best equipment you can afford is no equipment, right? That's okay. I'm here to say that's okay. And I still want you to make your podcast. I want you to ignore the people that say this. I want you to embrace a best equipment is no equipment lifestyle and make your podcast anyway. So today's episode is for all you babes who might be counting yourself out of podcasting because you don't feel skilled enough or technical enough or wealthy enough to do it. I'm here to say you can do it. You can have a podcast and people will listen. So here's your setup to do it for free. 10 minutes. I'm going to take 10 minutes and tell you how to launch a podcast for free 99, y'all. It's so possible. Let's dive in. So to launch a podcast, as I mentioned, really to launch a podcast at its core, what you need is a voice and something to say. Technically, on the technical side, you're going to need 2 more things. You're going to need a recording device that's connected to the internet and a podcast hosting platform. So let me say that again. To launch your show, you need a voice, something to say, a recording device, and a podcast hosting platform. That's it. So I'm going to assume you got the voice and something to say taken care of. If you want to launch a show, I'm going to let you figure that piece out. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode. And I'm going to focus on this equipment stuff. So let's talk about a recording device first. You need a recording device that's connected to the internet. That recording device can be your phone. That recording device can be your computer. My recommended most inexpensive recording device is a pair of Apple corded earbuds, the ones that have the little mic on them. For the YouTubers, I should have brought you an example, but the ones that you just put those little buds in your ears, they've got the cords that run down. They've got that like 2-inch long little plastic piece that is the microphone. If you have those on and plugged in and you hold that mic up in front of a few inches from your mouth while you record, they will do a pretty solid job of recording your voice without capturing all of the background noise and sounds around you while you talk. And that's really all we want. So, many of us have those, or you can borrow them from a friend, or you can check some out from the library. You can buy your own for less than $20. And that's my recommendation. So you need a recording device. Again, you can record straight into your phone or straight into your computer. You don't need to buy anything new. And if you do want to find something else, that is my least possible expensive suggestion for a cheap recording device. Next, you need a podcast hosting platform. So all podcasts are hosted on an RSS feed. That is what holds your audio files so that podcast listening platforms like Apple or Spotify can deliver your episodes to your listeners. Basically, the way a podcast works is that every time you have a new episode, you upload it to your RSS feed, and then Apple, Spotify, Overcast, all those places are constantly checking your RSS feed to see if there's more audio there. So when it comes up there, they pull it through to all the distribution places where people listen. Most podcast hosting platforms charge a monthly fee, but you can host your podcast for free with a service called Anchor. It's owned by Spotify. It is completely free. All you need to do is go to anchor.fm and create an account. They will guide you through podcast setup from there. They make it super easy and user-friendly. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on your computer. You can set up your podcast immediately. All you got to do is go to Anchor. So now you've got your essentials. You've got your recording device that's connected to the internet. You've got your Anchor account where you're going to make your podcast go live. That's going to host it for you. So how do you go about recording this thing? Well, here is another place that Anchor comes in handy, because if you're recording solo, you just log in, hit new episode. There's a big record button right there for you. And you just talk, record, finish, save it, and you can publish it from there. If you're recording interviews, Anchor also has a phone app that you can record on, and multiple people can kind of call in and record together. Now, if you don't like recording in Anchor, you can also record solo episodes using the voice note app on your phone. I have recorded so many podcast episodes in a voice memo, not for softer sounds because I have equipment and fancy things for my production studio. But if you ever subscribe to my personal newsletter, I definitely record the audio for those and the voice memos on my phone because I like to keep it easy, y'all. And I support that. You can also record interviews using Zoom on your computer. So if you're already on a Zoom call with somebody and you just want to record the audio from that for an episode, great. I encourage you to use the resources available to you. So once you've recorded, you will save the recording either in Anchor if you recorded there, or on your phone or computer, and then you'll upload it to Anchor. Anchor allows you to add music and sound effects. They got a whole bunch of stuff you can put in there. And then you will save that episode audio file. I think you hit next or something in their platform, and you'll write your title, you'll write your description, and you can publish it. You can publish it right then. You can schedule it to publish later. And that's it. You are officially a podcaster. Once you publish your first episode in Anchor, they will automatically submit it to Spotify, and then you can go through the process of submitting your RSS feed to Apple if you so desire. But truly, that's it. You are a podcaster now for $0, or at least $0 in addition to your phone or computer that you did need to have to make this. So, free is relative here. So let's recap. To need a podcast, you need two personal things, your voice and something to say, and two technical things, a recording device and an Anchor account. And that's it. At this point, you're probably wondering if I'm just a huge fan of Anchor or something. And honestly, I am not. It's not the service I use with my clients. I find it a little frustrating in the interface for myself. And I am a little skeptical of the Spotify affiliation, and it worries me a bit. I kind of take what they call like an adage or whatever, that like, if a service is free, then you're the product. And I'm like, how am I the product on Anchor? I do have those questions. And so I don't use it personally, but it makes podcasting free and easy. Anchor lets you make a free podcast with a super user-friendly, like beginner-friendly interface. And I want podcasting to be accessible to everyone. So I will tell you how to make a free podcast. I will also share, as I just did, some of my own like questions or critiques. But at the end of the day, I want you to just make the podcast for free. You don't need to have any equipment or be able to, afford anything fancy to make a show. That's what I'm here to say. So make your podcast, babe, and then send it to me so I can listen and so I can support you and cheer you on. If you enjoyed this episode and you are like, yes, hell yeah, I now believe I can make a podcast, I would love to invite you to also go ahead and download Softer Sound's free 8-step podcast launch plan. That'll guide you through some of the more intricate parts of podcasting that I didn't cover here today, like choosing a topic and creating your cover art and writing an intro and outro if you want one, and finding free music if you'd like some. So all of that is in that free podcast launch toolkit. So head to the show notes, grab that for yourself. And if you have questions, as always, again, please send them my way. I am currently trying to source some more questions for 2023 on the pod, and I would love to answer the things that you're asking about podcasting. So head to the show notes, record a quick voice memo with your question, or email me at hi@softersounds.studio so that we can get your podcast questions answered and help you launch your show for free. All right, babes. Thanks so much for tuning in today. As always, I can't wait to see you on the softer side of podcasting.